Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadrisam Tattvamasya Nilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaraitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Nithyanandam, welcome to another episode of Nithyananda Leelas. And that was a Canadian accent you heard on the Sanskrit chant today, because we're both from Canada. I'd like to welcome my guest, Jordan Kremyr, from...
I'm just outside of Vancouver in a small town I like to call Cloverdale, British Columbia.
Now, Jordan's journey has been very interesting because he's come from ice hockey to living at an ashram in India. So, Jordan, how did this happen?
Yeah, I really don't know where to start. Growing up in Canada, I was one of those kids that, was introduced to hockey right away. And ever since day one, I fell in love with the sport and chased that dream of playing at the highest level possible. And that, of course, was the NHL at that time. And so that dream just was something I chased my whole life. But coming along with that dream, there's this idea of the hockey player lifestyle, meaning, you live for the game. Like, you skate, you go work out at the gym, you hang out with the guys after, and then you go and you party and you have fun. And I was fortunate enough to make my way up through the ranks, and I got to play at college level, and then made it to the minor pros, and I was one step below the NHL at one point. And throughout that whole journey, though, I may have seemed like, I was having a lot of fun, and surely it was at some points, but there was points in my life too where, outside of the game and outside of being with my teammates and whatnot, I really wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied with where I was in life. I felt like a bit of a failure. I was, by the time I was 26 or 27, I was still single, and I didn't have much to my name, and I saw all these people around me that were very successful, I would say, and so I got heavy, a little bit more heavier into drinking and partying, because that was really the only time I was having fun. And eventually, though, I kind of hit a rock bottom, and that's exactly what I needed. I was never a spiritual person by any sense. There's a lot of Christians, of course, from the West, and that was basically the main religion I always knew of. And anytime somebody started talking to me about Jesus or something, I was basically telling them to shut up. Like, I didn't want to hear it. And eventually, though, like I said, I hit rock bottom, and I guess I was finally open to the possibility of spirituality. And I came across meditation, and I came across quantum physics and this idea of oneness, and the fact that everything is connected, and just this beautiful different way of looking at life. And it all really incorporated with so many other teachings, whether it's Christianity and do unto others as you would do unto yourself, or how the Buddha taught like he could never hurt a fly, and Hinduism with teaching the same thing, but just on different and a deeper level as far as I'm concerned. And it was one of those points where I was in my life where I was like, okay, I'm just going to make some changes and really start to implement these things into my life. And it was more of a logical thing at first. Like I said, I was never spiritual, but I understood the science of oneness, like everything is energy. And, quantum physics talked a lot about the unified field, and that, all this energy is being held together by this conscious energy source. And it was very intriguing, and intriguing how our own consciousness somehow connects to that. And so I really started to embody this idea of meditation, and learned a lot about the law of attraction, and really started to just, try and vibrate at the frequency of gratitude, and I started to have these crazy spiritual experiences, and, one thing led to another, and I eventually come across this guru on YouTube talking about super consciousness. I clicked play. He had a turban on. I didn't know what to think of it, but everything he was saying was just clicking, and it felt like I needed to just be around him. I needed to see him, and I came across this 21-day yoga meditation program that he was promoting, and I'm like, I need to do this. And so I went, and I was fortunate
So was
enough.
this Inner Awakening?
Yeah, so the the program, of course, is Inner Awakening, and to say the least, it was the biggest life-changing event that I've ever gone through, that I've ever been able to participate in. And I can say I've experienced so much in my life, and to be able to make such an interesting and unique journey to India, and be in the presence of this enlightened master who I knew nothing about gurus. I knew nothing about Hinduism, but just to jump in and do it because I knew it was something that was going to be positive for me. And I was in a space in my life where this depression it really needed to be dealt with, and I didn't really acknowledge it, but it was, Swamiji knew it was there, and it was like, he was like, hey, come here, I'll take care of it, and I go through this 21-day yoga meditation program with my mom, and it really demands the most out of you. It's 21 days. Like, it's not half days. You're up at 4 a.m. or 4:30, and you got yoga right away, and you're not back into your room until 11 p.m. at night. And so he's really extracting all this junk that's in our minds and beliefs that we have about ourselves. And like, I used to be one of those guys that just was so worried about what other people would think of me, and I was stressed out about where I was in life. I didn't have that house, I didn't have the car, I didn't have the wife, I didn't have the perfect lifestyle in a sense, and because of that, I couldn't be happy. And learning so many of Swamiji's teachings, if you just give it a chance and click a link and listen to what he has to say, it's mind altering. And for me, it's like, as soon as I started listening to him and started to really cognize what he was talking about, and get the clicks that he's preaching to us, it's like, it makes no sense to be sitting and watching TV at night now, and going to work on some 9-to-5 job that you hate, and so the program Inner Awakening is just this explosion within inside you. It truly is, like, the name couldn't be any better. It's getting rid of this identity that we have about ourselves, and just completely flushing it away, and connecting to who you truly are, this all-powerful, blissful being. And Swamiji gives that to you, and being around him and in his presence is just like, I literally just sit and just smile while I look at him, and it all came from that initial program.
And that's how I spotted Jordan, was at the Nasik Kumbh Mela, was the first time. Swamiji had us all practicing what we would do in the procession, and it was just a hilarious night because he had the music playing and we were dancing, and he was showing us how to twirl umbrellas and wave our flags properly so we didn't hit each other, and we were parading around the room. And I had been in India for quite some time, but I got to go with my country, and there you Canadians were marching around the room and dancing. And so I got to walk with you guys, and I remember just thinking how amazing it was that this Indian guru with a turban, as you say, had attracted all these faces, right? There was just a face from everywhere on the planet, the Canadians, the Chinese, the Malaysians, the Australians. There was just every look under the sun parading around, just in bliss because of this teacher. And I was always curious what your story was, because you don't everyone that shows up there, something has driven them. And the fact that you were able to come with your mom is really something, because a lot of people end up on this journey solo. Did you turn her on to the YouTube, or how did that work?
Yeah, I was solo. When I was going through this whole process, nobody else knew what I was going through. I was extremely depressed at one point. I was, I had suicidal thoughts. One day I had a belt around my neck, and I was just like crying in front of the mirror, staring myself in the eyes and thinking, like, I hate the person that I see. And then, I kept that to myself, didn't say a word anyway, and just go about my day and about my life. And the same thing was kind of with the journey on the uprising. I was meditation, if you go around and tell your teammates in a hockey dressing room that, I'm meditating, you guys gotta come do this, at first you might be a little bit worried about that. And now at that point I was still worried about what people thought of me. And so I didn't really mention too much about that. I didn't mention about, I was growing spiritually. I was even scared to tell guys that I was cutting out eating meat, but of course all of that changed after inner awakening. You have this growth in you where it just doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, so the journey, it was extremely lonely. I wasn't opening up to anybody, and that's because I was in an environment that wasn't conducive to my growth.
And that's what I've noticed in professional sports. There's almost this code of honor that you're tough and you're warriors and you can't talk about any flaws at all.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of depression and even suicide, especially in the sport I play in the NHL. There's issues there, and but it is being talked about quite a bit more now. There's conversations that are happening, and I like that I have this opportunity to talk about my story and the psychological lows that I went through, because there are players out there that are going through the same things that I went through, and they're even beginning to maybe realize that there is a different part of life, and that maybe we are spiritual beings, and so just having that understanding is really powerful. And I think for those people it's really important that they're surrounding themselves with like-minded individuals. And I got to a point where I was really worried about just being in the dressing room. I love my teammates. I love the guys that I hang out with. I love the sport. And, I don't judge them or anything, but, if they go out and they're partying all the time and they want me to go out and hang out with them because they enjoy my presence, well, it's not that I don't like them, but I'm just going in a completely different direction, guys, and so I need to, surround myself with those I want to be like. And, the mind is, as we know, is a product of its environment. And so where are you putting your mind? What room are you in? What TV shows are you watching? And what kind of information are you consuming?
And Swamiji cautions people that when you're in that transition stage, it's so dangerous to be with people who are more negative, have a lower frequency, because you're not strong enough to withstand it. The odds of you sliding back to that old life are very high.
Yeah, and that, we can fast forward a little bit to where I am today. I just played my 5th year pro hockey, and I made the decision this year to not play. And it wasn't because I didn't love the game or anything like that, but and the big thing when you hear guys retire, it's like the main thing they miss is the dressing room, hanging out with all the guys. But for me, like I say, I love the guys, but I'm going on such a different wavelength. I'm on such a different level of consciousness now that the reason I left the game was because I'm surrounding myself in that every day, and that's not who I want to be. And I'm a big proponent of being around those you want to be like. And so today, obviously I'm here in the Bidadi ashram. I took this season off. I haven't officially retired. I just, like you said, I wasn't strong enough. I've been following Swamiji for a few years now, and I felt like I just wasn't right where I needed to be able to hold that strength and to, we pick up people's energy, we pick up people's thought currents, and so I really needed to, if I am going to go back into the game, I need to be able to handle that energy and be strong in that. And so I decided to take the year off, and I've come to stay in the ashram. It's not too bad of a place to hang out.
And something Swamiji reminds us too is that the Sangha, which is the spiritual community around him, has the bulk of his energy. There's only a small portion of of the macrocosmic energy that lands in his form, and the rest is in all of us running around. And that's why to isolate yourself from the Sangha is a detriment. Some people are like, I just want to follow Swamiji, I don't want to get involved with the community. But the community is what will save you, because it's the people that you can call up and say, hey, do you want to go for a hike, or do you want to do something and have one of these great conversations, instead of let's go drinking and then hang out at the bar. Let's go do something, if you're still in the outer world, do something that'll make you feel fantastic.
Yeah, and that's like family. When you grow up, family's everything to a lot of people, and you have your friends and whatnot that are like family, and that's exactly what Sangha is. It's family, and it's obviously not biological in any sense, but it's being around a group of people that know that you are connected at the deepest level, that you are both one, and by helping one another, they're only helping themselves. And so why not spend more time with people like that, especially in a world that we live in today, where we're surrounded by so much fear, terror, greed, and just egotistical needs, and people are stressing about the stupidest things, and to be able to be in an environment now where you're hanging around people that they're literally, their whole purpose is to catch themselves even thinking about things that are like that and dropping them so they can always be in this blissful state. Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like, why not live a life where you're blissful and always happy? And the only thing that's going to drag you down from that is, your mind. If you can go beyond the mind and realize that, like Swamiji says, you're not those psychological highs and lows, or even your physiological highs and lows, and stepping outside of your mind and your body, and really, just trying to expand yourself as much as possible. I mean, I love sport, but this is where you get real expansion.
And existence, I feel, is just experiencing itself through all of us. So it does want us all to be unique. It doesn't want you to try and become somebody you're not, or me to become someone we're not. We're blessed to have great physical power. And what Swamiji has taught us over and over is that's what you need to hold high frequencies. He was trained so dramatically as a child, climbing temple pillars and doing yoga sunrise to sunset. And so his body had such highly trained muscles that when the enlightenment hit him at 12, his body could withstand the frequency. So you're actually in a position, even beyond a lot of us, to be able to hold that high frequency faster because of the shape you're in.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that I had this amazing enlightenment experience after the first IA program I did. I learned that you can, every day during Inner Awakening, you go up and you get what's called energy darshan from Swamiji, and of course, I didn't realize it at the time, but I quickly learned that you can write down anything you wanted, to ask him anything you wanted. So I said, okay. Being an atheist still kind of at the time, I didn't have any wild experiences or anything. I wrote down, I want to experience as much as God as you think I can handle. And he looks at the paper and he looks at me and goes, okay, I'll do it. A huge smile on his face. And the program continued on. I didn't have any wild experience yet. And then I traveled throughout India afterwards, went and saw the Dalai Lama, and, came back down and finished at Swamiji's ashram. And I did a daily meditation with a girl named Clara. She's from Mexico, and she's clairvoyant, so she could see things. And one day, Clara goes, and we're standing there and doing a meditation. She goes, hold out your hands. So we held hands. And she goes, I see Swamiji. And he's walking up to you. And he's putting this blue diamond in your chest. And then she goes, let go, Jordan. Let go. She has this Mexican accent, right? Let go. And I knew she was talking about this tension right here. So I just thought about letting it go just for a second. And it was just like, like this energy just comes pouring out of me. And I couldn't move my body. Like, I had this huge smile on my face. And even if I wanted to close it, I couldn't close my cheeks because it was so powerful, so strong. I was literally frozen in this bliss, like the most blissful feeling you could possibly imagine. Greater than any high you could ever imagine, or orgasm, or whatever pleasurable feeling, right? And I know that I had that experience because I was in such good physical condition. Like nobody else, like you say, could, if you're weighing 120 pounds, like odds are you're not going to be able to carry as much energy, right? And I know from experience that I had this amazing energy flow through me because I could handle it. Yeah.
And a lot of people who come to the ashram might be surprised at how physically exhausted they are, because Swamiji has got us going. Like right now, most of them are up at the temple doing kar seva, which is moving dirt around the banyan tree to get ready for the temple. And same thing in Ujjain, when we were all working so hard at the Kumbh Mela, and you were working because you were one of the few strong physical men there. They just grabbed you every chance they got. And what a lot of people didn't understand is Swamiji's trying to get us into the best shape he can so that he can download faster. Because everybody who's a couch potato or wants to come to Inner Awakening but skip the yoga and skip this and skip that, you're not giving yourself the ticket to get on the ride. Like the ride, you have to be in shape. You just have to.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel so so blessed that I'm in the position that I am in, because, obviously Swamiji is extremely aware that, the body needs to be strong and fit. And I wasn't really before, and I'm starting to realize it now. And now here today, Swamiji's basically opening up the door to the possibility of creating this fitness program that involves around, lifting weights, yoga, pranayama, all these different aspects of training to allow the body to hold this energy. And right now I'm on the forefront with the yoga department, and I feel so blessed that I have this opportunity and really create something that the world is maybe it's not ready for it yet, but they should be, because it's going to come, and they're going to like the energy that's going to be able to, I don't know, just evolve from this program is through the roof.
Well, and it seems like Swamiji is preparing us for new man, that there's a next evolutionary step for mankind.
Yeah. I shouldn't say like the world isn't ready. Like, obviously, you look at the way things are, like I said, we're ready for something. They just don't know what they're ready for, I should say, and that's what this program is going to be, one of those things. Like Swamiji's doing so many different things, whether, Inner Awakening or his weekend workshops and, his daily satsangs, where they're so powerful in elevating consciousness. And now, to be able to be a part of the fitness aspect of it, is quite, it's quite a blessing, like I said.
Well, and we're so lucky here, because the morning, it's 4 hours solid of morning routine, and that's what locks the frequency in. And whenever I've had to go back to Canada, I found that saved me. There were some mornings I'd wake up and I'd just be vibrating with an energy that had hit. And as soon as I did the 108 sun salutations, Surya Namaskars, it would settle into me. And I realized he had given me the tools to keep withstanding these downloads, even when I was in the outer world. But whenever I had those mornings, I would get people phoning me or emailing going, I'm having an anxiety attack, what do I do? And it was because they didn't know the difference between an anxiety attack and an energy expression. Right? They felt nervous. And so I'd say, go run, go do yoga, do something, and exhaust yourself. And every time it would settle that energy into them. So the universe is throwing this energy on us, and you better know what to do with it.
Yeah. And I always like going back to different parts of history and whatnot, like the Mayan calendar, ending in 2012. People thinking the world's going to end, and me being one of them, like, is the world going to end? Everything's telling me it is, but in fact, it's actually, this just elevation in consciousness is about to happen, and this energy is going to hit the earth, and if you're not really ready for it and really preparing to accept the energy, you can fall into depression, because, like Swamiji says, there's going to be more gaps in between your thoughts, and people are going to relate those gaps to depression. And so, but if you're highly active, like you say, and so many other things, whether it's surround yourself with, the Sangha and other spiritual beings, you're going to be able to hold this energy. And I think just fitness is a big part of that, like you say.
And what I noticed too at the Kumbh Mela, when Swamiji would talk about these sad gurus, a lot of them, you could see the sadness in their face because they had missed the context for what they were doing, and they weren't in shape. So I think a lot of them became wandering sadhus, stopped doing yoga, and just ended up being sort of these floaty, meditating but falling into sleep guys. And they forgot about the fitness aspect. I think the branch of the Mahanavani Akarta, which is what we're part of, with the Agoris and the Nagababas, they seem to have kept the context because they're incredibly fit. Yoga is very much a part of their life. They're the ones that are pretty much naked, smeared in ash that we would see around. And they were just tight as like a pulled violin string. Those guys were there was no fat on them at all.
Yeah, the whole concept of staying in shape and training is obviously something that resonates with me so much. And then to be able to come here and see that and see how far it goes back into the history books, and of course everything Swamiji talks about and is creating has already been created in the ancient Vedic times, and that's what he's here to reignite. And to see that history and how far back it goes, and to go back to the scriptures and to be so authentic with everything that we're doing here. It's truly amazing, like the yogic postures, the meals, the sattvic meals, everything is so authentic. And like you say, that Wanakata, it seems to be that they have held that a little bit, but Swamiji is just taking it to a whole new level where it's like, no, this is it. And then he's also sprinkling in a little bit of modern technology. And so it's truly amazing to see that growth. And even just anywhere within the Sangha or within the Bidadi ashram, you can see the potential where it's going and where it is already. It's amazing. And so to be a part of that is quite something.
Well, our time has flown.
Oh, okay.
But thank you so much for joining me. It's just been great talking to you. And
yeah, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Angle. So you're going to be here for a few months, so I'm sure I'll have you back on.
Okay, I look forward to it. I look forward to it.
Great. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll close with the Purna mantra.
Okay.
Om
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. That's it. Sarvam Sakuru Paduka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam.